Well, it's time now for a look at today's French front pages and indeed all of today's French newspapers with our press reviewer, Nicholas RUSHWORTH. Nicholas, thank you for joining us. And you're going to start off with Libération, the left-wing paper.
Hello to you this Monday, Lorna, and I'm going to start out with not Libération, in fact, but Le Figaro. I'll come to Libération. It's just straight after. But Le Figaro, this caught my eye. It's this two-page spread in Le Figaro, which is looking at the intervention in Mali and a war that the paper is describing as invisible. Now, all the papers are expressing concerns about the dangers for French nationals in parts of Africa and not least hostages being held. Now, what's happened over the weekend, Friday and Saturday, is reports of two men being killed and the French government saying nothing, no comment, and the paper in its editorial is arguing that is a risk. It could be seen here in France and abroad as a form of censorship.
OK, and that also a concern for Libération.
Well, as you were saying, Libération too covering this. Their headline here, I can show you very quickly the front page there, La guerre au tournant, and the war at a turning point. Now, it has a picture of the two men concerned, Algerian commanders of Abou, Zeid and Mokhtar, Belmokhtar. Belmokhtar, of course, was a breakaway from that group in Central Africa. Now, the paper, in its editorial, is emphatic about events since the report of the killing of these two men, saying it does not in any way accept the French government's silence. François Hollande owes the French explanations about the Mali mission. It says he needs to clarify what the intervention in Mali is all about, aside from the fight against terrorism. And that paper too warning that the French army could get too drawn in and become too associated with the Malian army, which of course is being accused of atrocities.
OK, and uppermost in people's minds, meanwhile, here in France itself, are those French hostages being held in Mali and other parts of Africa?
Well, in all, there are 15 French hostages in Africa, and of course that is the greatest number of hostages being held of any nation in the world. So, of course, a big concern. And aujourd'hui en France, Le Parisien is taking that up. There you can see the headline, L'attente est insupportable. The waiting is unbearable. The interviews with relatives of those hostages are very moving. The people are saying they are living moment by moment. The silence is deafening for them. They just do not know how to interpret these latest no-comment positions taken by the French government.
OK, well, you're going to stick with Aujourd'hui en France for this next story. They're taking a look at smoking.
Well, Aujourd'hui en France has that concerns about the family's anxieties on its front page. And also there you can see a young woman smoking. Now, what is she smoking? Maybe it's an electronic cigarette. If you look closer, you can see it's not actually a genuine one. Now, of course, with the cold weather, I've noticed personally that walking through the streets of Paris, that Parisians seem to be smoking even more than usual. They do smoke quite a lot. Now, it turns out, according to Aujourd'hui en France, Le Parisien, that at least 500,000 French people have turned to e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, in recent months. And that technology involves converting liquid nicotine into a vapor. They're battery-powered, and they don't use tobacco or have any of the chemicals in the usual cigarettes. And the appeal, apparently, according to the paper, for the French is that, in fact, austerity, of course, they're 4 times cheaper. So people, you can see, they're queuing up to buy them. And that's obviously to do with price. And to end, Lauren, I just want to go to a story that caught my eye in the Huffington Post. And it is about the Harlem Shake, which is the dance craze online, which we can't get away from.
Can you? It's everywhere.
And no other than the UMP youth. Now, the UMP is not the hump, of course. It's the opposition conservatives here in France. And here you can see them giving their dance a chance. The young guys, perhaps not so brilliantly, strutting their stuff there, doing the Harlem Shake. Of course, we'll see more and more of the Harlem Shake. The comment in the Huffington Post on this idea that the young guys can do this was, well, they look totally ridiculous. And isn't that a good thing? Because the shake is a good thing for a party that has so many leadership wrangles.
I was going to say, I would have liked to have seen those two leadership candidates taking part in that. Maybe it could have brought them together a bit more. Thank you very much indeed, Nicholas, for that look at today's French papers.